Welcome to the Well-Rounded Retirement Podcast with John and Jim from CRIS Financial. In this podcast, we help you take a well-rounded approach to retirement planning so you can retire with complete certainty. If you're looking for proven and straightforward retirement advice, ranging from how to protect your assets to how to spend with confidence, this show is for you.
Hello and welcome to Well-Rounded Retirement with Jim Donewald and John Glowacz from CRIS Financial. Jim, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You brought a guest onto the show, and you've given me the honor of introducing him. Can I go ahead and do that now?
Please do.
All right. So you brought Joe Burrage on, and Joe has been helping people with their real estate transactions since 1993. He's a married father of three, a veteran of the U.S. Army, and a longtime resident of San Antonio. Joe understands the local economy and the housing market, knows what it takes to buy and sell a home, and is connected to a national team to provide assistance anywhere in the U.S. That is quite the bio there, Jim. Why'd you bring Joe on the show today?
Yeah, Joe's a good friend of mine, and I appreciate him making time today. And Joe, just for those people around, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into the real estate game?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Looking forward to this conversation. Actually, I got started in real estate in 1993 and fresh out of the Army, going to school at UTSA, and I had the pleasure of rubbing shoulders with some real estate professionals in San Antonio at a restaurant I worked at, and was invited to come and interview for Rayco Homes at the time, a really big firm in San Antonio, and ended up taking a job there at Rayco as an on-site salesperson and worked there for 9 years.
Well, now, who did you rub shoulders with? How old were you? Do you mind me asking? How old were you got started?
Wow, I got to give my birthday. 1993. I was 26 years old, and
all right.
The actual sales manager for the company at that time, Rayco, he was the regional sales manager, and he hired me. I sat on site selling homes for the builder, and moved my way up into management positions and bigger, better things.
I hear you. You know, I used to be in the lending field, work with a lot of realtors. Haven't done that for a while, but I remember that. I remember the new construction and the atmosphere of all that, and kind of the excitement of it. And I'm sure that's been a lot of fun for you over the years. You know, you mentioned real quickly that you're a vet, so I want to pick up on that because I know you kind of have a special place in your heart for vets, and don't you offer some special services to them if they're looking for real estate needs? By the way.
Yeah, Jim, actually, veterans in San Antonio and active duty for that matter, for the San Antonio Metroplex, I mean, they're a big fabric of the community, big part of the fabric of our community. And so I don't limit myself to veterans or active duty, but they're a big core of what we do or what I do. And so having been a veteran, or since I'm a veteran of the Army, I understand what it takes to manage transactions for clients who are moving from out of state, maybe relocating here due to a job assignment or orders to a new community. I know how to serve those folks.
Well, that's excellent. So let me ask you this. So I know because lots of times people have specialties, and while vets isn't maybe the only avenue you work with. I mean, do you have a kind of like, do you like first time home buyers? Do you typically do more people that are, you know, like you said, maybe transferring in from another state, or what is your kind of specialty? Who's your perfect client?
Okay, so first time home buyers become second and third time home buyers and home sellers. So they're a big, a referral basis, or I can count on those for clients in the future. So, and it's a great way to get started in the business. So they've really helped me to where I'm at today. And so the short answer to your question is, whether it's a first time home buyer, second time, whatever the case, I'm able to tailor my services to meet their needs.
Well, that's, we do the same thing in our financial firm here. Is we certainly have clients, and hey, we like moving the big money, but nobody's too small for us as far as we're concerned. If they're looking for help and it's a good fit with our firm, that works for us as well. So I understand that. Let me ask you this, because I know you're in San Antonio. Truth be told, I have a business relationship with your brother here, and I know you helped him buy a place right here in Houston. So while you're centralized to San Antonio, how do you work the different areas, whether it's Houston or Dallas? Do you do that yourself? Do you refer those off through your company? How do you work that?
All right, great question. I'm licensed with Keller Williams, an international firm. We've got the most productive office in the nation right here in San Antonio. But if I've got a client, maybe I've served in the past, and they're looking to relocate to Florida, let's say, I've got a team of experts within my organization that I can pick up the phone and dial into them and make sure that that client is served on their relocation. So they're moving from San Antonio to Florida. I make a connection, make sure it's a right fit, and so I'm able to serve them, it's across the country.
Well, I know when you were I mean, that's excellent. I know also when you were in the Houston area, you're very familiar with that market, even though that's maybe not right in just your backyard. Texas is a big place, but you seem to be up on what's happening across the state, correct?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you another question here. So when you're going through, when you're meeting somebody, do you have like a particular process you like to take them through that kind of gets them, headed in the right direction? I know there's a lot of different avenues people take. I don't know these days if people just come to you and say, here's 50 homes I want to see, or do you have a conversation with them over a cup of coffee and say, what are you guys looking for? How do you work with them?
Yeah, so I like to have a meet and greet, try to set the expectations. I use a flow chart to walk buyers and sellers, home buyers and home sellers through a process, and it's really basic, but it gives them an understanding that this is how the process works today. It's an evolving industry. Things change, requirements, codes, expectations, and I like to set that expectation in the beginning, and I use that with a really simple flow chart. That way they have questions answered right there on paper in front of them, and then we address any situation as they come up throughout the process.
Yeah, I like that approach. We do the same thing here. I agree. I think there's a process you got to walk people through so they know what to expect. You've got, there's so many different houses and things they've been looking at. And as I always say, like in our industry, the products may change, the process doesn't. And the plan is what we're here for. I mean, the end result is you want to buy a house, right? But if you don't know which house or what neighbor you should be looking in, are your kids school aged? You got to have a process that help them get there. And one of the things we were talking earlier today, I was talking with Joe and I said, I always look for personal referrals. I'm talking to clients. I like to be introduced, whether it's my doctor, dentist, real estate agent. I don't like going, and I said to Joe, I don't like going in the yellow pages. And he just started to laugh because he's like, I know nobody uses the yellow pages anymore, but that shows you my age here. But it just comes down to, when people call me, you can call the 800 number, wait on hold for a half hour and talk to somebody, or you can call me and I will take care and address your situation, or my office will. So I'm assuming with yourself, it's a very, what I would call high touch, very personal relationship you have with these people, is it not?
Jim, it is. And it's high touch and it's relationship based, and there's some intimacy in the way we approach the business. Every transaction is unique. Every buyer, every seller is unique. And so we've got to treat them like that and look at exactly what they're trying to achieve. And so I don't hand off a client to a team member. I take them through the process. Now, they might be contacted by the title company or the loan officer, but I'm there every step of the way, and I promise that.
Well, see, I love that, because that's what I want. I'm looking for somebody, to solve my problems, calm my anxiety, not create more. So what happened? How did you guys handle this pandemic? How did that affect your business? What changes have you made to help people feel more comfortable and still keep the process moving?
Yeah, COVID, boy, a year later. And, when it first hit, we thought that was the end, at least for the short term. And we did shut down, and agents became essential employees or essential workers. And so within a week of COVID and the announcement of shutdowns and such, business really picked up. And they say real estate is seasonal, and we haven't seen an end of the buying season since COVID began. But we've taken some approaches on how we work with clients, a lot of conference calls, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of video tours with a mobile phone, whatever we can do to show a product that maybe clients aren't going to be able to get out of the house to go see, or we've catered our actual services to meet those needs. But business has not stopped, and it keeps growing. We do have a shortage of homes on the market. I'm sure you've all heard that, Jim. I know you're aware of that. But we've got mechanisms to kind of deal with that, and how to guide people through a market where there's a housing shortage.
So if there is a shortage then, and these people maybe are getting close to retirement, would now be the ideal time then to maybe put their house on the market for something like that?
Obviously, it's a great time to sell, but at the same time, that seller's got to buy a home, most likely. So as far as selling the home, that's the easy part, right?
Okay.
It's finding them the next move. Where are they going? So before you put that home on the market, they've got to have a landing spot. And we really have to determine where they're at in the process. And so a lot of things come into play there. But it's a great time to sell, and it's still a great time to buy.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just always curious, like you say, they run in cycles, and sometimes, they say it's this great time to sell versus buying. And I agree with you. Where are you going? If you're leaving maybe Texas or going to Florida or something like that, maybe so, but not if you just got to jump back in that market. One question I'd really like to ask you, because we get this all the time too, so I'm sure you're aware of this, but we have robo advisors in our industry, and people are, these are machines that are just going to trade your accounts and do your financial planning for you, and you're never going to talk to anybody. So when I, turn on the television, I say, or I see these signs on the side, we buy houses and you don't need to talk to us and we'll take all the pain out of it. We're just going to buy this thing sight unseen, 45 seconds on the computer. What's your take on all that? I mean, I have my own opinion on that, but I'm sure there's a viable part of the population that likes that. That's not my cup of tea, but it seems like there's a lot of shortcomings in that method, no?
Okay, so as it relates to your question, robo buyers, where you offer the home to a company that's going to purchase it sight unseen, as you mentioned, that might work for somebody. Yeah, that might work, but the bulk of the clientele that we have, the bulk of the sellers out there, they need a human touch, and they want to see on paper, okay, what can they net if they put that home on the market? What is the true market value? Not what someone's offering me sight unseen, but what can I get for this home? And so we're able to provide a market analysis, help them determine exactly what they might net, as opposed to selling it sight unseen to one of these big companies. And I don't care to mention their names. There's plenty of them out there, and they're harassing owners today to the point where it's just really, really unnerving.
Well, it's funny because I've bought and sold. I was trying to add this up that I've probably done 20 properties in my lifetime of different, 2-flat, single-family houses, things like that. And never, ever, ever, ever once did I put in the offer that was accepted. There's always been that back and forth negotiation. We'll give this, we'll give that. Maybe it kills the deal, maybe not. But I would assume, that's probably one of your strong suits, isn't it? The negotiation process and making this deal come together?
Absolutely. Today, more than ever, you might be putting in multiple offers for a client. So they find the perfect house that meets their needs. The price is right. Maybe there's 10 other offers on it. Well, sometimes we can tweak an offer to meet the buyer's needs and the seller's needs. Let me give you an example. If a seller is in a house, ideally they want to get paid, right? They want to get the highest and best for their home. But sometimes if you offer that seller an opportunity to stay in their home, my buyer purchases the home, maybe they close, and the seller gets to stay 2 to 4 weeks. Maybe the buyer doesn't need to get in for another month and a half. They've got an advanced approach. So a lease back would be an option. It takes a real expert to help determine what's going to meet the seller's needs, but still advocating for the buyer. And there are other tweaks along the way that an expert can make.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like I say, like I say, in my limited experience, the options are limitless. It seems because I know if you want to make that deal, usually both sides can come together. But that doesn't mean with the attorneys and everything else these days that it's not a few back and forth, and certainly more than one phone call. Like I said, I've never had a single deal where I've put in the original offer and that's the way it's gone. So I would think I want somebody on my side to do that. Now, are you a dual agent as well? I mean, how do you primarily work your business?
Okay, so in Texas, dual agency we don't even allow. We have I work for buyers and sellers. Now there are times
Okay.
where I'm working for a seller. I've got a home listed, and a buyer comes along, is not represented. I can still perform my fiduciary duty for the seller and work that person purchasing the seller's home as a customer. So they don't get my fiduciary clientele relationship. It's a transaction for the buyer, maintaining fiduciary to the seller. So you've got to represent one party or the other in Texas.
Yes. Okay, gotcha. Well, I'm from Illinois originally, and I told you I've been out of the real estate game for a long time, so that's good to know. But like I said, I think you always want to get that trusted person on your side. So Joe, I know you've got young children, and I'm assuming when a lot of people move, school districts are important, things like that. But are you up on, say, I don't know, the mortgage rates and what's available? How are some other ways that you help people really fine tune their search process and help them?
Yeah, Jim. So mortgage rates. Speaking of mortgage rates, that means buying power. So although home prices are increasing at an increasing rate, the actual price of the home rates are still historically low. Just as an example, 1996, I purchased my first home, 8.5%. In the late 80s, they were 18%, and rates are down at what, three and a quarter today. So you could buy a lot of home with really, really good rates. And I'm connected with several lenders that offer awesome service, competitive rates, and can really assist with a client who's looking for, maybe they're on a budget, and everybody's on a budget. So as it relates to the actual interest rates, finding a lender that's going to help a client qualify based on today's rate, whatever loan program they're choosing, we match them with a lender that's going to provide that service to them and help them meet their end goal of closing on a home.
So just kind of like we were talking about earlier, where I said I don't like just to pull somebody out of the blue or off the internet. So if somebody meets you, they get a nice working relationship, and then you can give them a lender or somebody that can help them, that you have a working relationship that then kind of ties them in once again. So it's kind of a warm handoff. Is that correct?
Yeah, warm handoff is a perfect way to put it. What I'm going to do is offer 2 to 3 referrals to lenders that I have a proven track record that frankly are going to get the deal done, and the client's going to be happy. They're going to move into their home, and they're probably going to refinance, or they're going to use that lender again ongoing. And so it just makes for a great relationship.
Okay, so Joe, I know like you work with these guys, so you're helping to get a loan and help this whole process go through. Do you ever run into any surprises along the way?
Oh boy, there are no happy surprises in this business.
Isn't that the truth?
None. Yeah, I mean, and that's a big part of setting the expectation, but you've got to be flexible and adapt when something does hit you. I mean, you close on a home, or just prior to closing on a home, you're asked for another $10,000 down, or the seller refuses to move, or anything that can be thrown at you. Those are speed bumps that we have to navigate around, and nobody likes a surprise in real estate, and we try to head those off before they hit us.
Well, it's I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but that's where it gets back to what I refer to as the robo advisors, or whatever. I wonder how that process works for them. This is where I think you really need, somebody in your corner. When we started this conversation, we were talking about, you said you worked for that builder, and then you've kind of gone up the ladder, and you now work for Keller Williams. So do you work with like both new construction and pre-owned homes, and what is all in your portfolio, your plethora of products you have?
Yeah, so new homes are a big part of the portfolio today because of the shortage in pre-owned homes. So some buyers have the time to wait for a new home to be built, and we help with those. Connect them with a builder that's going to meet their needs and take them throughout the entire production process. So that could be a 6-8 month process from construction to delivery. And we're capable of working with the new home builders, have a really good reputation and a really good connection with home builders in the marketplace. And so they're a big part of the mix, new home.
You know, Joe, when I bought my house, it was just a few years old, and I've really enjoyed moving into a newer home. You know, Eric, I know you're listening quietly in the background there. Did you have any questions for Joe? Anything that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I'm going to put him on the spot. Joe, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I know that I'm not in your area. I am in the very flat state of Nebraska. I know Texas is slightly flat, but I think Nebraska takes it. It's really, really flat. However, so I've got a situation. I'm just curious. Jim has spoken on this podcast many times about not trying to time the market, right, when it comes to investments, so on and so forth. And I'm assuming that it's going to be kind of similar in the real estate game. But I'm looking at the value of my house right now, and in speaking to many people in different professions, a lot of people think the bubble is going to burst on the housing market, not like it did in 08, 09, but there may be a downturn. You know, it may turn into a buyer's market instead of a seller's market in the next maybe 12 to 18 months. Now, that's just rumors around the water cooler, but I've been thinking about selling my home and maybe renting for a year or two to be able to take advantage of a buyer's market after taking advantage of a seller's market. What would your advice to me be?
Hey, fantastic. You know, I get that often, and probably not a bad play today. And especially if you can do that, the bubble's always going to burst at some point. It's when is it going to burst? We don't know. The timing of the market's difficult. But if you're looking to sell the home, you've outgrown it, or you're looking for something new, not a bad strategy to do a rental in the meantime if they're available. I mean, it all comes down to availability. And if you've got the time to wait and you want to parlay, you want to take advantage of a seller's market and it works for you and you can net what you're looking for, why not?
Got it.
You know, that was a good question, Eric. I had that same thought. That's a good question. I've been hearing this about the bubble, but I don't see it, you know, as just the opposite. I see it keep going strong, but you always wonder. So good question.
Yeah.
What else?
Thanks.
What else is on your mind, Eric?
Well, so along those lines, you know, how much do you see sellers right now saying, you know what, I know that I have some things to fix up, but I'm just going to try the market. You know, we're going to see what the market would bear. Are you finding that people are really, really trying to fix things up? You know, they're going to redo a couple bathrooms, or going to update some carpeting, or switch to hardwood floors, or granite top the kitchen. I don't know. You know, all those different things that we think about doing when we live in the home. Are they doing that before they sell, or are people just saying, you know what, let's put it on the market and see what happens?
Yeah, so when I get those questions, Eric, I advise clients to do, if they're going to do any of those remodels, as you say, make sure it's for their enjoyment. Don't do it because you're expecting to get more value for the home. Homes are, you might not need to take on those type of repairs. If you're going to enjoy it and it's for you, do it. Don't do it as an investment strategy. It's not necessary today in most cases, but if you can take some joy out of it, why not?
Makes sense. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, my wife's an interior designer. No matter what the other person did, we're going to do something different when we move in. I know that for a fact.
That's a good point. Good point. Guys, this has been a great podcast. Joe, do you have any closing thoughts for today?
No, I'll leave you with this, and thank you, Jim and Eric, but it's an exciting time. The real estate industry is exciting. I know investments, portfolios, et cetera, are exciting. Let's just hope for continued growth and optimism.
Okay, Joe, hey, I wanted to thank you today for coming in. And just so our listeners know, now they've got all this great information, how do they get a hold of you?
Oh, man, I'm easy to reach, Jim. 210-383-1246, or try me at my email, jb@jbsoldsa.com.
Sounds good. Once again, it's Joe Burrage with Keller Williams, and he would love to help you.
All right, guys. Again, fantastic podcast. Wonderful content today. Joe, again, thank you for being on the show. Jim, of course, thank you so much for bringing him on the show. You always get great guests, and I learn so much from them. But our last thank you, of course, goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Well-Rounded Retirement Podcast with Jim Donewald and John Glowacz. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Jim and John come out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at CRIS Financial, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Well-Rounded Retirement Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of CRIS Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.